to this computer. Okay. All right. I'm gonna set the stage a little bit that we're doing what uh, we called Sunday sessions. Last year we did one with Jason, Ryan, and Jimmy. We're gonna do one with Isaac today. But it's going to be a little bit different because during a conversation that Isaac and I had, he mentioned that he has really framed a, a big majority of his sales process around an us versus them conversation and a competitor um, language. Um, because that's not a huge part of the four-step program, I thought it would be beneficial to kind of focus on how Isaac is seeing consistent heavy or consistent high results in his sales process, kind of stepping outside of that four-step program and bringing in some more us versus them competitor language. So that's setting the table here for the conversation. And thank you, Isaac, for taking some time late at night to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's start with kind of right at the beginning. Did you When did you start leaning on competition language? Like, was that very intentional, or did it happen organically as you got to know your market?
I think the latter. This is my fourth year as a rep, and I noticed by year two, there was a lot of extra competition in West Michigan. I actually did a count. I noticed there's 15 awning providers in West Michigan between like the northern Indiana portion, southern Michigan, and then all to the west side up to Ludington. So I counted them. I kind of made a reference point, and every time it felt like I was in that specific market that they might be residing in, I noticed I was seeing some clients who would either reference them or reference getting quotes, like multiple, or it was like Sunsetter as a secondary option. So I felt like every time when they would bring that up at the end of your presentation or the quote portion where they're like, well, I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to buy an awning now. I'm getting other quotes and stuff. It just felt like there was a disconnect trying to go back up into the presentation, go over what theirs is versus what mine is. And I just felt like with the client, they weren't receiving it very well. They were kind of considering it more like he's trying to, you know, uh, go over the competitor, and maybe they might not even be interested in that in general. So I thought, well, how can I make this more organic, more natural for the client to kind of experience what Marygrove is versus what the other guys are? And so I think that was kind of my moment where I was like, I got to change what I'm doing here. So that way, when I'm actually talking about my product or talking about the competition, I'm bringing it in naturally. So there's not a point where I really go back. I just build it in if that makes sense.
So this is every appointment, or is this only appointments that you walk in and pick up some sort of signal that they have been shopping or that they're going to shop? Like, do you just assume that they are going to shop, or are you picking up
Um,
on a signal?
I usually ask loaded questions. I think when I was watching Ryan, Jason, and Jimmy go over theirs, I noticed they always have loaded questions. I do the exact same thing. What I
Yeah.
mean by that is like um, you'll be like, "How did you hear about us?" And they'll say, "Oh, I was looking up awning companies, plural, and I noticed Marygrove and you guys have good reviews, so I was just shopping around." So if there's anything that would like trigger the idea that they might be meeting with somebody else, or they might be kind of like looking at another brand, immediately that's the presentation I'm going down. That's what I'm going to go down. So and I like I said, I'm not doing it in a way that's bashing any other brand, but I am doing it in a way that they understand of what I'm doing is like me versus them through the entire presentation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So are you trying more to like create doubt about anyone else, or are you um, working
Um,
the confidence up in Marygrove, like, or is it both?
yeah, so I think what it is, it's like it to kind of give an example, right? If we were on the adjustable pitch portion of the brochure, And I'm discussing that with a client. Be like, well, there are other manufacturers, and most of them here in West Michigan, they provide an awning. That's what I call set it and forget it. That's where your installer comes out, sets the height for you, and then they leave. They forget about it. If they ever need to change that height, whether you
Mm.
want it to go higher, lower, angle it, so you have to call a company back out, and then they can reset it for you. With Marygrove, we have a built-in adjustable pitch system, so that's how you change the height from side to side yourself, not calling us out there to do any adjustments for you. So I'll do something like that throughout the entire presentation.
Man,
And
that's so good because that feels like, sorry for interrupting,
no, you're
but
good.
that feels like a expert in his field educating, not bashing a competition, but educating on what's out there.
Mhm.
You're immediately setting yourself up as an expert in the field with language like that. That's
I,
really
I
cool.
also hate bringing up names. I think I learned that from one of the other guys, but I never bring up another brand. I just say there's other manufacturers and I leave it kind of open-ended. If they're
Oh.
like, "Oh, well, who?" Well, I'll be like, "They're out there. You can look them up if you don't believe me." So
What if they ask, or what if they say at the close, we have someone else coming? Then do you ask who's coming?
yeah, absolutely. I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. When I was getting my water purification system, I got multiple quotes. I'm like, if you don't mind me asking, who are you meeting with? I was like, I know everybody out here in West Michigan. I know them by name. I know their brand. I know what they sell. I know their product. And I have their quotes.
Man,
I was like, I can help you. I can save you the time. And nine times out of 10, they're going to be like, "Yeah, I'm meeting with Mike Pate with Sunsetter." And immediately, okay,
you
I,
know the
I
guy's
know
name.
yep. I know who Mike is. I know what he sells. I know what he says about me. And immediately I can go over quotes, like literally everything with his information. And at that time, I'm leaning a little bit harder into the competition folder.
Sure.
I've built my own with Sunsetter, so
Perfect.
um, it's pretty natural. I would say another really big one is I go over the hood style awning in the when we go over cassette on page 6. I'm going really deep into Marigrove used to manufacture a styled awning called a hood style awning. And we stopped because of three problems with it. But those other two manufacturers I mentioned earlier, they still manufacture the hood style awning.
Mm.
And I'll go over the three problems. Most of them you guys already know. It's just going to be the rotting canvas underneath it, the animals, and then birds perching and building nests up there. Um, if they don't believe me, or if there's like, if you have any sense of doubt, I have so many pictures that I just open my iPad, takes 10 seconds, and then I go straight to the folder and then show them pictures of what I'm talking about. And it's like, oh yeah, I see now what's happening with that hood style awning. So it's a no-brainer at that point. So everything that I'm doing, I'm leading it with like, here's an example. This is what happens here, and then kind of go down the line with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so is there ever a time where, yeah, I'm thinking about when I used to run this condo in Auburn Hills that was just printing money, like absolute laydowns.
Hmm.
And actually, found myself early on in this condo overselling the awning and like overcomplicating the conversation when they were
Yeah.
ready to write the check, and I didn't have to be talking as much as I was talking. And like, have you ever found that of like walking into a house and maybe someone says something like, I'm so excited to get a Marygrove. Does that make you back off of talking about any other options out there? Or do you still think I've got to talk about what else is out there, or I'm leaving, you know, exit ramps open?
Yeah. No, I absolutely get what you're saying. I just left an appointment here around 5:30, 6 o'clock. And the client, one of the first things he said is, I've done my research. That's why you're here. So
Hmm.
that's a very straightforward
Yeah.
statement, right? That means he's picked me for a reason, right? So in that sense, there's no reason I need to go over competition, going over above and beyond and all that. So if the client hasn't given me like that trigger, like, and I ask questions that give me the answer I'm looking for,
Got it.
and I'm not given that like that trigger feeling where I need to go over down like competition or anything, then there's really no reason to do that. If he's going to say to me, "I've looked you up, I know your product, I saw your reviews, I know you guys are a great reputable company." Why would you want to spend the extra time going over like Sunsetter versus Marigrove? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, absolutely. I think I changed. I actually changed the presentation to how the client answers questions.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Have you ever had a case where you talked about competition in maybe the wrong way and it backfired? Like maybe you were too aggressive or um,
Yeah. I get what you're saying when you're coming off with that. I think in the beginning when I was learning how to do it in a way that would make sense, I do a lot of trial error, and I really pay attention to how people respond visually when I'm going to be going down that road.
yeah.
If they're not enjoying it, you need to get off that highway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they're not interested, there's a reason I don't say Sunsetter and Sunpro, right? I'm probably going to meet with one of those as the two larger vendors, so I don't say any names. I don't give them any like whatever. I just go over like this is what we do. This is what competitors do. This is how Marigroup operates. This is why we built it for Michigan. This is how they operate, right? And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like a why we stopped doing this. We used to do the exact same thing as them, but this is why we stopped doing it because this way is much better. And when you're kind of like you're not attacking them, but you're showing them the true evidence of why it's better, and you're letting them decide it for themselves. You're
Uh,
not really like, go ahead.
yeah, honestly, like this whole this all of this language is working so well because every single thing that you're doing is setting yourself up as an expert in a very like these customers don't know hardly what a retractable awning is. They certainly don't
Mhm.
know the market or industry like you do. Like this is all working because you are not saying, "Hey, let me tell you about the competition." You're saying, "Let me tell you about the industry." And prove to you what our 90 years in it has done and how we can take advantage of it, how it's framed, how we build things and how we operate. Like you're just that's what's working on all of this is you are educating them or that's how it feels, right? Like it's
Absolutely, yeah,
very strong.
100%.
So on that topic, do you feel like you are, when you're trying to tell the story of Marygrove, do you feel like you're leaning more heavily on our actual product and its features and its quality, or the way Marygrove operates? Like, what is the bigger selling point or the biggest us versus them? Is it who we are or what we build?
I think Marigrove's done a great job at building a brand, right? So
Mhm.
like Nike, just do it, right? So I think Marigrove was doing a great job at Life Outside. I don't need to play in the market of like marketing, right? They know there's a reason I'm sitting in front of them at the end of the day. So what they don't know is like what goes into the actual awning. You said it great a few minutes ago. You said not everybody knows what an awning is. I would say the average client that I meet with has done 5 to maybe 10 minutes of internet searches to figure out what the awning is, what it might cost. They always search how much does an installation cost for an awning, and it always says in Grand Rapids for some reason $1,000 to $3,000. And I always show
Yeah.
them like that's just installation. So going back to like Marigrove though, what they don't know is like how it's done. So I go over a little bit of the history, tidbit on that. The 93 years in business, Mike's the owner. I show him the picture of him. That's the guy you saw on TV.
Yeah.
Um, we kind of go down that path. And then I start talking a little bit about inventory language, but very lightly. Um, I would say what I really think gets their attention is when you start talking about how Marigo's been doing this for 93 years. We've seen what works, we've seen what doesn't. We've seen what's already out there in the awning world. We didn't want to be like everybody else. We wanted to create a product that was a forever style awning, meaning if you had one of ours, it was going to last you your lifetime. So then I'll go down the road and say, look, every single thing on this awning can be fully replaced by Marygrove. So, to give you an example, I'll say in the canvas lifespan of maybe 12 to 16 years, you'll need to replace it, right? But everything else stays up on the house. We'll come out here, we'll wipe it all down for you guys. We'll clean it all up, relubricate up the moving joints. And I said, and then you're good for another 12 to 16 years. So, and then I'll even go off like this, right? I just had a client who was buying this. She was selling her condo in 2 months. I said, well, why are you buying just curious, why are you buying the awning if you're selling the condo? She said, because I want to use it as a selling point for the next person to buy the condo.
Nice.
So I said, perfect, absolutely. So I knew exactly what I needed to do with that client. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to kind of lean into what it is, history. I think it just makes sense, and that's why a lot of clients really enjoy. If they're not enjoying the whole idea of how we do a production, the manufacturing process, how we've been doing this for 93 years, then I might skip some of that next stuff. Like I'll let them,
Sure.
if they're not asking questions and they're just kind of nodding their head, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, I'll just kind of, okay, well, they're not receiving exactly what I'm giving.
Yeah.
So after that first, adjustable pitch page, I'm going to start speeding through some of the longer stuff I would normally go over. I'm going to shorten that up quite a bit, make it short and sweet for them.
Beautiful. Yeah. Adapt
Yeah.
it to them.
Mhm.
Outside of the sales pitch, what are the things that you think genuinely Mary Grove can do that no competitor can come close to doing?
That's funny, actually. I tell my clients, I say I have a superpower that nobody else has.
Okay, let's hear it.
And it always they always raise their eyebrows to it. They're like, okay, what is this guy talking about? And I'll say, look, can you name another company, not just awnings, but anybody else that can manufacture and order exactly to your specifications, come out and install it in your house, guarantee your satisfaction from start to finish for $100? And I'll just let them sit there because they can't. There's nobody else that can do that. I have a superpower nobody else has. And I think when you kind of like, when they're like, okay, well, what if I didn't like the awning? What if I get it and I hate it? I get that every now and again, very, very rarely. But be like, if you give me a 30-day notice, after you get your awning, I'll refund everything. Nobody else can do that. It's like, I'm going to guarantee your satisfaction throughout the entire thing. If you hate my awning and you can't stand it after everything we've done to your requirements, like you can go and get a sunsetter if you want. We'll refund everything for you, but you're gonna love it. It's like that one or not episode, but meeting you had with Ryan. But you're gonna love it. I know you're gonna love it. You just have to
Yeah,
kind of present that
yeah,
to him. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Okay, cool. What about especially newer reps who, the last sessions with like Ryan and Jimmy and Jason, it was the newer reps that were like, man, this was so crucial. So, because this isn't a huge part of the four-step process, you already mentioned you're bringing it up early, the talk of competition. So you're not just using it as a close at the close during an objection, which makes sense to me, right? Like you're kind of, hey, elephant in the room. I know there's other awnings out there. I'm going to sprinkle it in throughout so it's not this big conversation at the end. Like that does check out with me. But one of the things that is really the backbone of especially newer reps and teaching them how to sell at Marygrove is the idea of inventory. So, how do you combine inventory language with competition language?
Um, that's a good one. So inventory should be natural in the sales pitch. Competition is not. Competition is like an add-on, right? So, in the beginning, when we go over the maps page on the back of the brochure, I'm very lightly addressing us and two other manufacturers in the United States that don't do what we do. Marigrove is the only one that manufactures, installs, services, and warranties. Now, remember, I already mentioned there's two other manufacturers. So my seed has been planted. I don't need to do anything else on this page. That's done.
Hmm.
And then I'll go down, since we're a manufacturing company, if we have what you're looking for at the end of the presentation, I'm going to build it out with the best features I can automatically. If I have it in stock, I'm going to get you some freebies as well. I'm going to do the best I can to get you guys the best accessory package that you guys want. And then I leave it alone. I don't bring up the next competitor notes or inventory language until I want to say it's page 6 or 7, page 6, the
Yeah,
closed awning picture.
yeah. Of the brochure you're talking about?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I love that you know what you say by page in the in your process. That is awesome. Um, okay, so you are bringing it up and you're like how the four steps say you're tying, hey, there's going to be incentives if we have this exact combination built. I mean, the obvious way to talk about inventory versus our competition um, is delivery time, but don't you get pushback on like custom sizes, or well, they have 30 fabrics, like are you getting any of that when you're trying to combine competition language and inventory language?
Yeah, so if I do get that kickback on, like, let's say the canvases, well, why do you have 11 and Sunsetter has, 30 plus, right?
Yeah.
I'll say, well, Marygrove vetted over 300 canvases, and our clients' feedback chose these as the top choices for the right canvases for Marygrove.
Yeah.
I'll say, most of the 30 some you would find from Sunsetter, nobody would pick them anyway, right? So Marygrove has already done the work for you, right? We can skip 20 some other canvases. We can just look at the top 11.
Yeah.
If you can't find what you're looking for in this, we'll go over, a sunbrella if you want, So, you had another question though. I'm so sorry. What was the second portion of that question?
The custom sizes.
Oh yeah. Um, Whenever they bring up the idea of custom work, like resizing or something along the lines of that, not a problem. We do that in-house. We'll resize it for you, not a problem. But I'll say most manufacturers, they do custom orders. And I want you to take that word custom and change that vocabulary in your head to more expensive, because that's exactly what that means. So I'll just kind of rephrase that. Custom just means more expensive. If we can stay in our stock sizes, I can save you on quite a bit on cost and on timeline. And so I just
Wow.
make it short and sweet. And then I've never had anybody have a rebuttal past that. That's literally, if they even get to that
Knock
point,
on wood.
yeah, that's it. You know, and if they do ask that, that'll give me the ability to do, get some new language. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, man, that's great. So now you're combining being an expert in your industry and being an advocate for the customer. Combine those two things, man. You're gonna have the performance that you have. I mean, that's just it. Um, so when do you decide? Because you and I talk whenever you have to do a price match.
Yeah.
So when do you decide this is my only move is to offer a price match with the competition?
So years prior, Bruce has been a real pain in my rear.
Yeah, for people that
Um,
don't know, Bruce was a ex Marygrove employee and started selling Sun Pro, which is an incredibly similar product to ours.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah,
That's
Bruce is,
saying it nicely.
yeah, no, you said it way better than I could.
Yeah.
I have nothing nice to say about that, but um, Bruce has been real pain in West Michigan. And this year, I had already made a stance more last year after that home show season in 2025. I said I gotta figure out a way to stop price matching. It's not just, okay, I don't like to lose money. I don't think anybody here does. But when you're doing a price match for one of their, one of his clients, and your commission's $50, you don't feel good about it. So I said, you know what? I got to figure out a way. So I did a folder for Bruce, a Google Drive folder, and I went over each and every quote I've ever received from him. I went over how he's told multiple people he wants to go into retirement. And then I've copied down the SunPro warranty verbatim and then outlined and highlighted exactly where it says your warranty is covered by the person you buy it from. So Bruce. So Bruce retires, there goes your warranty. I then go down the line, the rabbit hole, I call it, of the SunPro folder that shows that they're aluminum square bars. I talk about how in West Michigan we get so much wind from lakefronts that it bends those aluminum square bars. You need a steel, square bar. So I'll go down that rabbit hole and then I'll say, look, we get a lot of rain here in West Michigan. You don't need me to tell you that. We are 100% waterproof canvas, not water resistant. Just that line alone, I've stolen two clients from Bruce Boobin. So, um, I the whole folder that I have on top of that, and then they say, well, why is his is $1,000 to $1,500 less? Be like, look, Bruce is just Bruce. He hires high school kids, right? He hires two high school kids in the summertime to install his awnings who have never installed awnings before. I said, how do I know this? Because one of his clients called me asking us to rehang the awning because it pulled out. And I said, who installed it? They said, a couple high school kids. So I said, all right, look, so Bruce installs awnings with two high school kids. My brother's been installing awnings for 7 years. He works with my cousin McGill, right?
It's
And
a family
they
affair.
exactly, yep, we operate together here in the West Side. So I'll say to them, look, I trained Isaiah. Isaiah can now install awnings better than me, and I've trained over five other crews here in the Marigrove company. I was like, look, we know what we're doing. We're going to guarantee your product, and just that alone, they back off from the price match. Well, can you do anything better? And I'll say to them, well, if you want a better awning than ours, and you find it, let me know. Let me know, you know.
Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff. Man, I wonder how much of that is transferable. Well, first off, it's very clear that when you talk about Bruce, it is a little bit more personal than when you talk about the general competition. Uh, yeah, that guy. Um,
He actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was one of the whistleblowers to the company about I was getting tired of installing awnings that he was selling from SunPro
yeah,
and writing them off as reinstalls.
yeah.
And so when he came up to me at the booth a couple years ago, we had a conversation. He's like, "You used to install my awnings." I said, "Yep." You know, and I let his clients know when I'm meeting with them. I let them know the exact same thing. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Man, that was
so
a wild situation.
so look.
Yeah. How many folders, and not just competition folders, but how many folders of images and like documents and things have you made, specifically you made, not that you use, but that you've curated yourself?
Um, I'm gonna do a very
Yeah.
quick 5, 10, 15. I have 42 total, and I know not all of those. I'm I'm gonna guesstimate seven of those are not for Marygrove.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say 35 are Marygrove related.
Of folders of photos that you know, hey, if I open up this folder, I can talk about X. If I open up this,
Yes.
I can talk about Y. Yeah.
And a
Um,
lot of them have folders inside of the folders.
yeah.
So if you hit like competition, it'll list 15 different companies and then like literally individual details for each and every one of those companies.
Wow. Man, you were going into these houses prepared, huh?
So
I
yeah.
I never had that, Isaac. I was winging it every every time. I never had anything like that. I you make your bed in the morning, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When Paige isn't sleeping in
Yeah, right, right.
it.
So if you like that, I feel like that has a big part of why you are successful at this type of selling, though, right? Like if you are stumbling through competition language, man, it can get so dangerous so fast. You are doing the homework to like have earned the fact that you can lead with us versus them, you know?
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, um, I don't know if everybody else is like this. I know Ryan is because I got his sunsetter disclaimer from him, but um, I read every single warranty from every single competitor, and then I take out what I like. What I mean by that is what a client isn't gonna like,
Yeah,
and then
right.
I and then I add that to the folder. So yeah, it's like when we talked the other day, and you sent me, I think it was Solera's uh,
Yeah.
information. I checked them out and did the exact same thing. So I'm briefed. I'm ready to go. Yeah, you have to do that if there's a lot of competition in your market. If you're in the Detroit market and you got a couple Sunsetter reps and maybe a couple others scattered throughout, still it's a great idea, I think, in my opinion anyway, to have something that you're very ready to go up against anybody with.
Yeah.
Um, so
I feel like one of the things that happens in newer markets is well, maybe with newer reps, is this like knee jerk reaction of, man, I don't, we we can't deal with this competitor because he's really beating us up. And man, if you give it a little bit of time, like you know all of their first names. But I
Yeah.
was the same way. Like I knew the guy that I was going to be selling against, and I knew exactly what he was going to say. And it
Yeah.
just gets so much easier as you get more reps and appointments under your belt of, oh yeah, he's going to throw this out at you. And then you can do that thing where you're like, I bet he said this, huh? You know?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, he did
Yeah.
say that. Yeah, that's what he says.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that can be really powerful.
It's also a big thing, I think, when they're bashing you, but you're just sitting there and you're laughing about it because it's obviously funny, it's humorous, you know. Um, I think the biggest thing though between me and my first year at Mary Grove as a rep and me now is when clients in my first year would say, I'm getting another quote, I'm not buying an awning today, I was crapping my pants, like I
Yeah.
was like, what in the world do I do? You know, now it's like, oh, great. They're prepared to buy an awning. They're going to buy it for me.
Yeah.
So I think the perspective, like you said, has changed quite a bit. And if they can kind of get through it, learn, like you said, who they're up against and what they're going to say, track that information. You're not going to remember that 2 years later. So track it, log it. And I think that's all I did. It wasn't that hard, honestly. So
Yeah. Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's okay, let's move over to we'll do like try to do some rapid fire of the um questions that I asked the other guys, just so there's a little bit overlap with the interviews. Um, let's see which ones will we not have gone over. All right, so what is there one thing that you do in the home every single time? Like, man, this, like I am telling this joke, or I am doing this if they have a pet, like something like that.
I mean, there's too many of those to
Yeah.
answer that
Yeah, yeah.
straightforwardly, but is there one thing that I would say? Um, Jeepers.
Cheapers.
I don't know. I mean, it just depends. Like I said, if a client says something, I have like a rebuttal or an answer, and
Yeah.
that's just how I built the whole thing. Um, yeah, I mean, there are so many of them. I can't really think of a single one that would be like better than the rest.
Like, oh,
I would
this is
say
my, yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, like one I can give you right now. Maregrove makes a wonderful waterproof canvas. We don't make these
Okay.
remotes waterproof. So
Yeah.
make sure you bring your remote back inside. And every time I say that, they look at me, they were serious in the beginning, and then they start laughing. And it's usually a pretty easy, icebreaker,
Yeah.
if they're kind of being, stern or whatever. So
Man, you just got a, five-star review from
right now,
Jim. Yeah, from Jim McKeon.
cheapers. Yeah,
He says, 5 star, knows his product inside and out.
that's great to hear.
Yeah,
He's
just came
he's a
in.
nice guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Was that a today guy?
Yeah, it was early today.
Nice.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. Okay. Do you care where you go through the brochure and where you try the clothes? Like, do you try to get inside? Do you not care if you're outside?
Yeah, I absolutely care. I'm kind of biased here.
Uh-huh.
Um, the coffee is hot and the checkbook is within arm's reach inside of the house. So you need to be at the table for that.
You got to be at the
So,
table.
yeah.
I'm the same way. Um, are you ever bringing the fabric out before the brochure?
Um, I just want to make sure I understand exactly what you're asking. You're saying, do I bring it out outside when we're outside together when we're measuring?
Yeah.
No, never. When I'm in the house and we've just like begun to sit down and I've started to ask them like how they heard about us, whatever. I bring the brochure out, the samples. I bring out the metal canvas samples, and then I also carry a front screen sample, so I bring all of those out. And then I heard somebody in another interview you did. They said something about the client taking them. That happened to me once. So what I do is I
Smack their
take my
hand away.
iPad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get out of here. Um, I stack them all in a clean stack on the right side of my where I'm sitting at,
Yeah.
and then I put my iPad on top of them so they cannot touch them. Yeah,
These are for
nobody.
later.
Yep, these are get your hands off. Yeah, exactly. So
Wow. So you don't bring the frame samples outside either?
no, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
I love that.
I think it overcomplicates it. Plus, I want to give the expectations that are very clear when we're outside. Hey, I'm going to take some pictures. If you guys want to go inside, I'll meet you guys in just a moment. If we have a table we can set up at, that way you guys can see everything I have to show. It gives them kind of like a clear understanding. Oh, I better get the table cleared off for them, something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, wipe the crumbs off.
exactly, yeah.
Um, when you are using the brochure, I think I know this answer, but is everybody at the table getting a brochure, or are you having story time and showing the brochure?
Um, I ask for brochures quite often, I feel like,
Uh-huh.
and I only ever usually get a single box. So if I
Uh-huh.
ask for two, I get one, right? There's no way I could be giving out two, three, four brochures every single appointment. It just not doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So
So,
I give one, I hold it, and I crease the page over and go over one individual page, the entire time.
hell
I
yeah.
think Ryan said if somebody grabs it, I do the exact same thing, and it had nothing to do with Ryan, but if an old guy, like an Italian guy, he grabs, give me that, and he's starting to look at it. I'll just be speaking to the wife. I'll start talking about the weather, the beautiful home that they're in, and then I'll say, and whenever Paul Bellata, that's the first client I ever sold an awning to. When Paul Bellata is done looking at the brochure, we can continue the presentation, and then he'll look over and be like, oh, here you go, here you can have it back, and then we'll continue the presentation. So
You got in trouble, Paul
yeah.
Bellotta. That's awesome. Yeah, man, the, I don't get how you can like have full control while handing brochures to everyone and letting them flip freely. Never made sense to me.
I agree. Plus, there's so much to read on those that I don't go over.
Yeah,
So, like, reading each and every line item and stuff. I'm going to go over the gist of it anyway,
for sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the idea. Like it's designed as a obviously to help you flow through step three, but also as a leave behind so they can read it after the fact, not while you're there.
Exactly.
Um, okay. You kind of answered it a little bit with the how you get inside, but I tried to never have a script, but I had very, very scripted transitional language of like, now I want to go inside and I am going to say this. And then I would, my language was, okay, I have everything I need out here. If there's a comfortable spot where we can set up, I'd love to show you what we have to offer. And that would be my transition language from step two to step three. Do
Okay.
you have any part of yours, which this might be a kind of a repeat of the last question, but do you have any
Mhm.
part where you feel like this is scripted? This is a script that I have.
I don't love scripted anything. I just feel like it's clients, they see through that. They feel like it's a greasy salesman. I, I just go through the exact same thing and a little bit like different for each every client. Like if we walk through the house and their table is trashed, I know I need to give them a little bit extra time to clean that table off for me, right?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll be like, all right, we got our measurements. The next step is I'm going to take some pictures. I'm going to go over a couple notes in my system here. Do you guys want to step back inside, get out of the pictures, and I'll join you in just a moment. Maybe we can sit at the table. I imply that. Maybe we
Yeah.
can sit at the table and we'll go over the presentation together. That way, when they go inside, it gives them maybe an extra 30 seconds or 45 seconds or something to start cleaning off that kitchen table for me.
Are you a neat freak?
Yes.
Okay. This is like the fourth time you've mentioned you better have that table clean.
It doesn't have to be like, okay, they don't have to like completely clean it. You know what I'm saying? But like if
Yeah.
it's, the clients I'm talking about, they got
Oh,
dirty
for
clothes on
sure.
it, they got their mail everywhere, they got their dishes still left out, like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
You're
Yeah.
describing my table. Yeah.
I'm sorry, David.
Um, okay. You have just built the order. You have walked through the line items and you have given them the total. I want you, and if you can role play a little bit, go ahead, but I want you to give the total and then tell me how you transition to your first ask for the $100.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. Um, so we're going through the quote. I'm going, like we discussed this before. You're going line item by line item, discussing it with them, making sure they're aware of what it is. I went through the essentials, how it's a stock owning. They're going to get that at no cost. It's built with it. We get down to the final cost. I'll say this is the price. This is the sales tax. Um, if everything looks great, it's $100 to proceed with your first installation date here on this date. And then I'll spin the iPad around, go back to the sales agreement or the sales portion, show them that iPad, and then I'll start grabbing a business card and a stapler and begin to staple their business card on the top right of their brochure.
As they're
Um,
looking at the quote.
yes, and I'm not saying anything at that time.
Yeah. But so you are showing them the price and mentioning the $100 deposit, and then you're not talking.
And then
Uh,
I'm showing them the date, and then I'm not talking.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And is that the first time, besides using the I'm sorry, and besides using the visualizer, that's the first time they've seen the iPad screen?
No, when we're every time the client is discussing like Canvas, I open on my iPad, I go to the best pictures I can find that are clear with stripes, with whatever color frame and Canvas operation that they want. And
Gotcha.
I let them see all those before. So that's the first time.
Okay. Now, you get an objection for the $100 deposit. Hey, okay, this looks great. We're gonna think about it and we'll call you tomorrow. What is your first tackle on the hey, we'll call you tomorrow?
Um, it goes a little bit different every time depending on who says it. If it's the
Uh-huh.
wife or the husband, um, they also sometimes will say something completely different. Like they'll have like a little uh, side note on top of that, and then I'll kind of address that as well. Typically, what I'll do, and this is why it was valuable for me to keep for you to keep this in the iPad, is I'll show them the appointment count. So I'll
Oh,
be like, "Oh, absolutely, I totally understand. I always give everything a couple days to think it over. We built this $100 reservation system for the client. I don't need a single penny from you. The company just wants to see your interest, that you want the awning enough for $100 on the order. I'll reserve it for you guys. Discuss it after I leave. If it doesn't make sense, we'll cancel the order as soon as you guys have a decision made. If you do love it, you have it, you're ready to go. I'll pull one of these from stock. We'll reserve that frame for you. Pick that installation date that works best in your schedule, and then you're ready to go. If I hear back from you, that's when we'll cancel it. So that's going to be your um, my second ask for the $100 deposit.
yeah. And then when do you know when to stop asking for the 100?
So if they've started to like, usually after that second ask, I start to get they're starting to get a little bit more like verbal. Well, you know what? That's not that bad. We could have reserved for $100, or we should talk about it a little bit more, or usually something along the lines of something like that. And I'd be like, look, I promise you, I'm super easy to work with. These are my 5-star reviews. I'll flip my iPad around. My West Michigan just got my 140. I'll show them that number and I'll say, and then look, the back of your brochure, America was a 5-star company on every single platform, right? Everything I'm saying is straightforward. If you like it, talk about it after I leave. The $100 reserves you. You guys are ready to go. And then like you're giving them a little bit more confidence, but you're not like, I don't know, you're not being a butt about it. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And then so that's when like, hey, no, look, I told you we're waiting. We're gonna think about it. We'll call you if we want to put down the 100. That's when stop
that
pushing.
no, that's when I spin the iPad around a bit. All right, I totally understand where you're coming from. Let me just show you this one thing, and that's it. And I'm being straightforward about that. That's when I go to the appointment count. I show them the 53 reps, the 125 appointments for the day, and I'd be like,
Nice.
it's not me saying this. It's me showing you a little bit about what's happening in the company as we speak. This is all in live. So I say, today there's 125 appointments. I have two of these in stock. If you like it, it's $100. Like I said, I'll refund it if you guys change your mind. And it's like, okay, that alone, I usually seal the deal on that.
Wow.
And then if that still doesn't work, If it's like a one lagger with a husband, Tom Batten gave me actually some phenomenal verbiage when it came to like the one leggers with the husband, and I've been using it ever since. It's been helpful for me anyway. But um, if you want, I'll tell it to you. You want me to say it right now?
Yeah, please, of course. What are you gonna not?
I'm
What the
sorry, I
hell? Of
brought him up.
course,
Yep,
yes.
yep. Yeah, raising anticipation for you. So he said, well, you heard everything I had to say, and your partner wasn't able to be here. I know you're interested in the product enough to sit down with me today. Let's take $100 from the quote, hold it for you until you and your partner have made your final decision. If you decide to go any other route other than moving forward, it is fully refundable. We'll cancel the order at your convenience. You guys talk it out over the next couple of days or a week or so, and let me know if you change your mind. I can then cancel it then. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
And just stop talking. If the husband says no at this time, this is my fourth ask, that's it. I'm gonna walk away from that appointment. We did not get $100 deposit.
Yeah.
Um, so I've done literally all the arsenal has been emptied, and they're still fighting me. So it's
Yeah.
probably I usually just take it at the chin there, and I say to myself, it's probably the price. If it was $5, he doesn't need the wife's decision, right?
Right.
So it's usually the price,
Yeah.
and that's it. So
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Um, all right, three more, and then I'll let you go have a life.
sorry.
Um, is financing part of your language, or is financing a response to an objection?
Financing is definitely a response to objection. I do not bring that up at all. Um, when they see the price, they're like, oh, or whoa, or there's some other ones, that they'll say. When I hear those, um, something along the lines of, oh, is that a little bit more than you thought? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes they'll be like, no, it's better, or like I'm usually shocked by whatever their answer is.
Yeah.
But if it is like, yeah, I was expecting this to be closer to 5,000 for a 20 by 12. Big, I totally understand. So then I got to back up a little bit, right? Their budget's five. I got
Yeah.
them listed for nine. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, how can I find a medium, a middle ground? Like, well, if it was a specific price, like that would be in your budget, where would we be at, like to make something happen? And sometimes they'll be like, well, it needs to be around five. That's all I really have. And then I'll be like, okay, if we did financing, I can get you financing two different plans, right? The first one is 12 months interest free. I'll open up my calculator, give them an exact dollar amount. Would this work for you? And I'll show them a number. They usually say no. And then the second option, I'll say to them, this is usually going to be the retirees or people on Social Security. I'll say to them, well, if I can get you your payment, if I can get your payment for less than two McDonald's meals a week, would you be would you be interested? And they're like, well, tell me a price. And then I'll go
Yeah.
into the calculator on the Green Sky app and build it out. And it's like $60 a month, $70 a month, and
Yeah.
for 10 years. And I've literally sold awnings just in the McDonald's line. I don't even know why, but it works.
Yeah, that's great. Um, yeah, I'm the same way with financing where it was a response to a price objection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always like kind of questioned myself on that and whether or not that's the right thing. Like it's so easy to casually say, uh, we do $100 deposit today and the rest you take care of with the installers, or we have some great financing options. Like that's such an easy line to say, even before an objection comes up, but I
Yeah.
just could never fit it into I just never could do it.
I don't love it. It's always extra work, and for me, it's extra obstacles, right?
Yeah.
If you can streamline the process, and he's happy with making 2% back on his Amex card,
Hmm.
he's he's just going to do COD anyway, you
Right.
know. But if it's the client, I've had this in the past before. Where they're like, "Man, I really just don't want to give you $9,000,"
Yeah.
and that's when I'll pull out the 12 months interest free, and they'll be like 12 months interest free. And then I'll talk about, yeah, if you have your money in a 401k or a Roth account and you're making money on it, you can make the minimum monthly payment, which is whatever XYZ number, and your money will make money in your account. And literally off of that alone, like the financial advisors and the CPAs and everybody, their eyes light up. That's a good
Yeah, right.
idea.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. You get it. So
Yeah. What if the price objection is like, man, I thought this was going to be $1,000.
Yeah, I think every single market is going to see those. I I feel like I get more than most people of those
Tell that to
objections.
Joey in Detroit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Uh, I will go down the road if they needed, let's say, a $3,000 awning. Okay, if they're $1,000, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do my best to get them up a little bit, get those numbers up. Um, if I can't, and they're still like they're not playing ball with me at all,
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, look, all right, there is nobody that is going to sell you an awning, install it on your house, and give you a 10-year warranty for $1,000. There's just not. There's not a single person. I know everybody out here in Michigan, but I was like, I'll do something along the lines of, look, I'll check, see what I got in stock for showroom displays, or um, we can look at a 10-year financing plan, keep your money in your account. If they're still like, no, I mean,
Yeah.
you're
What are you going
probably
to do?
you're probably playing ball at 20% even. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Last one. Did you ever have a eureka moment
Oh my
and what
gosh.
was it? And what
You
was
did
it?
that on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're goddamn right. I did.
I was like, I hope he doesn't ask me that same question, and then he does, but it's okay now because I know what that word means. So for me, it was definitely in my first year. I would say Ryan helped me with this moment, even though he doesn't know it. Um, he gave me a little advice saying, relax. And
Yeah.
I think I really needed to hear that because sometimes you're running at a million miles an hour. You got 5 appointments, you got 7 hours of driving in between. You're stressed because you've been working 6 days a week. You're, high anxiety, whatever. So I learned to relax. And then I followed his other advice, which was match the energy for my clients. And
Yeah.
then the last little bit on that was, look, you've taken your shoes off. They gave you a hot coffee. Sit in their house, enjoy the time with them, and give them a lasting impression of why you're the best awning company they can choose and why you're a great rep. You know what I'm saying? Give them a
Yeah.
moment that they'll never forget about a product that they'll never, forget our options and stuff on. And I think that was when I started kind of doing that, enjoying myself a little bit more, have fun with them, laugh with them a little bit. Dude, it changed everything. It was like being stressed about it to being like, yeah, man, this job is fun. It's easy. It's not bad at all. I've always loved sales, but that was definitely my moment
Yeah.
for sure.
That's great. Well, Isaac, thank you very much for a great conversation. I think it's going to be really helpful for people to hear how you're doing it out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun. Had a good time with you, David.
Yeah, yeah, this was fun. I wish I had enough time to do this with everyone, but not the reality.
I get it. There is one other thing after we get off air that I want to talk to you about.
Okay, well, that was still on air. Everybody's going to
Yeah.
hear that, so they're going to know. All
I'm
right,
sorry,
we're,
David.
we're gone.
All
Goodbye.
right.